Hi, I'm John Conley from the Galapagos Duck, and we're sort of thinking a little bit about the history of the band today. Over the years, I joined the band in 1981, and since then there's been quite a number of people come through the band of necessity. People move on, get other jobs. Some people got sick and aren't with us any longer, unfortunately. But the band started back in 1969, and would you believe we have the original keyboard player here today, Des Windsor. Please say hello.
Hi there, I'm Des here.
So the band started, there's only one, as I said, there's only one original member now, which is Des here. How old are you, Des?
How old am I? I'm 90 years old now.
90 years old, wow. And so we'd like to have a bit of a chat with Des today and just talk about how the band started originally. So Des, tell us how you got the job, the first job with the Galapagos Duck.
Well, how I got the job was I'd actually been in New Zealand, which I'd back and forwards many times. I'm from New Zealand, but I've lived in Sydney for 40 years off. And I was walking through the cross one day, and Marty Mooney and Tom Hare were walking together. They bumped in. I bumped into them, or they bumped into me, and said, "Do you want to go to the snow?" And I said, "Oh, of course," because I'd been down there a couple of years previous, and I'd first met Tom Hare when I had a band down at Wilson's Valley, a trio, and Tom had a duo up in Perisher Valley, and so I got to meet him first then, and so anyway, I was walking through the cross. They asked me, "Do you want to go to the snow?" Of course I do. I love to ski and I love to play music, and we had a wonderful time down there.
Yeah.
And both Chris or Smedley, as he became, because originally he was Chris-O and I was Des-O, and Tom, of course, was Tom, and Mart was Mart, not Marty.
So in those days, you would go down the snow for a sort of a bit of extended period.
We do the full season. The full season was generally 4 months. We'd start, I think it was D-Day, the 6th of May, and we'd finish up in sort of early in October. Sure. And we'd play all the way through. We'd play 6 nights a week. And the band was so popular that people used to get on the snowcat from down Perisher Valley or Spigot Holes. We were the hottest band at that year in 1969, yeah. And they'd all pay money to come up, and the place would be full, and we'd play all our things. We had a pretty sort of mixed repertoire, from very early tradie sort of jazz to fairly modern tunes that perhaps won't come to my mind at the moment, but they were of the latest jazz ilk. Yeah. And so we had, like I say, a very varied, and a lot of people dancing.
Yeah.
So obviously we did the right thing.
Yeah. So the band members were you on keyboard.
That's great.
Chris Qua later on Smedley on double bass and electric.
And he played.
Oh, and he played flugelhorn too.
Flugelhorn, and I played a keyboard which was a Vox Continental, the same as the Beatles had.
Whoa!
And I played the piano.
Oh,
so
right.
I was piano and.
So you could do keyboard bass.
Well, I played mainly organ sounds and a little bit of keyboard bass.
Oh yeah, right. So Tom was on.
Tom was on drums.
Who later was saxophone and trumpet, but he was on drums.
He was on drums too, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes Smedley would play the drums, and I can't really remember whether Marty did, or I don't think he did.
So he played saxophone, like tenor and clarinet.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah.
And so accordingly the repertoire that we played would depend whether he was playing a clarinet thing or he was playing the saxophone, which would be a more modern type of...
Right, so even back in those really early days, you were swapping instruments, which later became a sort of a trademark of the band.
That was a trademark of the band, was swapping then.
Yeah.
I mean, I just played the two, but in later years that when they went into the basement, they had a Yamaha had provided instruments,
Yep.
And more musical instruments were added.
Sure.
I don't know exactly what, but at that time, when they went into the basement, Tom asked me to go with them, but I was contracted at the time up in the Cross. I was at the gazebo.
Yeah.
And I had a trio there, and I couldn't walk away from them.
No.
So the band carried on, and quite a number of piano players after
You
Des.
did, yeah. So that was 1969.
Yes.
And so what had you been doing? You must have been a pretty accomplished player by then, or pretty, you must have been an accomplished pianist, and also pretty. You had a lot of
I had
gigs
played,
under your belt.
I had a strange story. I played, of course, when I was young, but then I emigrated to America because I was a mechanic, and I worked for British Motors, and I tuned sports cars in Van Ness Avenue for British Motors in San Francisco. And I got a letter from a mate of mine saying the clubs are opening in Sydney. Des, if you want to be a professional musician, get yourself back here, which of course I did. And that was 1962. And for the last 60 years or more, I've done nothing else but play professional piano. And I've played in jazz groups, and I've played in international hotels.
Yep.
And where we're sitting now, I play quite often on a Friday with Gordon Matheson, and we have a wonderful afternoon's music.
Wow. So, getting back to the that gig down the snow in 1969.
Yes.
So you're in the Schloss Bar, at Charlotte's at the Chalet.
At the Chalet
in
Charlotte Pass.
Charlotte's Pass.
Yes.
Which was that was a place where you didn't have to be a member. You could just book a room, come and stay, because all the other places were like lodges, weren't they? Like where you had to be
there was up in that at Charlotte Pass. There was a couple of lodges.
Yeah.
There was hotels down at Perisher.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And Smig & Holes, Wilson Valley. But it was wonderful.
So tell us, what was the first night like?
Well,
you must have got the train down there or something.
Did
you get the train down?
We caught the train down.
What, all together?
All of us together, yes.
Oh my God! It would have been an interesting trip.
Well, there was a little of the liquid consumed.
8%,
but it was. I'm not sure whether it was an overnight trip. And we got there the next morning.
Yeah.
And somebody.
So you get off. Where do you get off in those days? Cooma.
We got off at Cooma.
Cooma. Yeah.
We got off in Cooma, and somebody came and.
You picked up.
They sent a bus.
And then you'd have to get an oversnow up from Perisher, I think.
From Perisher, yes. We had to go on a snowcat.
Yeah.
From there, and it was. There was a good amount of snow when we first got there. A couple of times we had the dust storms and the snow would go all yellow, which is quite strange.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the snow that year seemed to peter out. And as I say, we had the band, we played, and Willie Qua, Smedley's brother, came down in his school holidays because he was the youngest member of the band.
Right.
And so he played drums.
Yeah.
He extended his school holidays. He might have been, there's 2 holidays over the time that we were there. He probably played 6 weeks, or 4 to 6 weeks anyhow.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was his early days in the band, but still at school.
Wow. So there's a bit of a rumour going around, or at least Tom used to say, when he said, no, every time, if anybody asks you how the name Galapagos came about, you've got to say it was it was Spike Milligan that named the band, but I'm sure there's actually another story.
How it came about in the early stages was when we got to the slosh bar, there was just a concrete floor and a piano, and Tom said, although it was Marty's band when we originally went down there, we decided, Tom said, well, we better build a bandstand. So we built a bandstand, and he said, oh, we better have coloured lights. So we got an old record player and we got a piece of cardboard and cut it in a round shape. We cut holes in it and put coloured paper. And anyway, we first turned it on, and with the lights behind it, the old record player, electric, and it sort of was jumping around. and Marty walks in, and Marty said, oh, looks like a Galapagos duck. And because we all loved the Goon Show, and we had watched and listened to the show over the years before that. We had tapes of it that we actually listened to down in the snow that particular year.
Yeah.
So that was just one of the things. Marty also loved to do, what do you call those, puppet show. So we did puppet show for the kids. And we're up there and Marty's doing his thing. There was all sorts of things. It was a very enjoyable time to be with the band.
Yeah.
And we enjoyed one another's company a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tom got to know Bruce Viles down there. Bruce Viles worked in the management or something?
I'm not sure. I went out there when we first signed the contract.
Yeah.
We went out to Bruce Viles. I think it was out towards Parramatta.
Oh, right.
He had an office there.
Yeah.
And Bruce...
so Bruce later on owned the, owned
he
the
might
basement.
have been a friend of Marty's. I'm not sure.
Oh, really?
I think he was a friend of Marty's because it was Marty's band.
Yes.
When we first went down there.
Yeah.
But Tom took it over.
Yeah.
After we got all these, we became sort of well known on the mountain that year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And Tom was the band leader forever after then.
Yeah, because I think when they came back to Sydney, Bruce had the Rocks Push.
Yeah, well, when we first came back to Sydney, we found it hard to get work, but we went into John Huey's wine bar.
Yes, John Huey's.
And we played there a couple of nights a week.
Yeah. And Bruce was associated with that, wasn't he?
He was out of it at that stage.
Oh, okay.
But then the Rocks Push came, and all sorts of players played there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I saw Cole Nolan there, John Hillman, Warren Daly.
That's right. Yeah. They all played there.
Yeah.
But that was about the time that I went up to the Cross.
Oh, was it?
And got work there.
Okay.
That was,
So 1974 or 73, they built the basement down in Reby Place.
Yes.
And Tom asked you to come in there, didn't he?
Yeah, he did ask. He asked me, but I was tied up in the contract.
Oh, right.
And I couldn't walk away from the trio I had, and I couldn't walk away from the contract with the Gazebo Hotel.
Right.
And as much as I would have loved to, I've carried on. Life is like that. Being a musician, you do the best you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
To survive. But in those days, there was plenty of work.
Yeah, that's right.
You could. It was quite incredible.
Yeah. So you're 90 years old now.
Yeah, I don't know how, but I am.
That's incredible. What about giving us a bit of a tune, Des?
Unfortunately...
Oh, you can't? Because
we'll see.
Okay.
I had an operation on a trigger finger, and that's sort of gone sideways.
Yeah.
I've got arthritis in the hand, but we'll just see what we can do.
Okay. Lovely. Beautiful. Thanks, Des.
We did our best. The hands, like I say, are not in great shape anymore.
Oh, thanks so much for talking to us today. That was really interesting. Thank you.
It's a pleasure, my pleasure, and thank you for asking me to
Oh,
come and join you.
absolute pleasure, Des.